Here is an interesting question, though. Somebody asked this, Kanchanji. This is from Vivek Sinha. He's saying, from a philosophical point of view, I still think there exists a pagan and a non-pagan lens. That a Western media or a white media taking superior upper pedestal against a pagan country which is rapidly developing. I do think there is some truth to that in the way India is portrayed in the media. Do you feel that at all?
Oh, yes. Uh, you see, historically, uh, the the Christian West was never comfortable with the non-Christian East, uh, and history records this fact. Uh, More specifically, when it comes to India, the Christian West was never comfortable with the idea of a big country with so many followers of a religion called Hinduism. Now, Hinduism is a latter day coinage, but the whole idea, the philosophy, the thinking behind behind Sanatan Dharma, they they were, all these Western scholars who tried to read Indian texts and translate them. What were they doing? They were not genuinely curious. They were not trying to sort of gather and share enlightenment. They were trying to probe and find out what is it that
Hmm.
sustains a religion through millennia, and why is it that it has survived more or less in its pristine form, at least the idea behind it. So this discomfort of theirs gives rise to this sense that India must be put down for a multiple reasons. I mean, again, I mean, I know I keep on repeating New York Times, but if you go back and look at the front page cartoon in the New York Times
Oh
on
yeah.
Mangalayan, where where they show this cigar smoking, suited booted guys inside the club, and you have this Indian with a pagri and a buffalo knocking on the door. Now, this is not some intentional. This is not something which they thought up at the
Yeah.
spur of the moment. This is how they see India. This is how they see Hinduism. I remember when Atalji was prime minister and Jaswant Singh was the foreign minister. His mother had died, and in Rajasthan, at least that part of Rajasthan where he came from, the custom was that when your mother dies for a year, you wear a white pagri or something. And so Jaswant Singh, who was a traditionalist in that sense, he he would wear a white pagri wherever he went. And the General Assembly, the UN General Assembly was meeting, and uh, I think it was the Millennium Session, the 2000, the year 2000 session,
Hmm.
and he was part of the advance team which had gone there. And New York Times carried a photograph with the caption, "An Indian official with traditional headgear." So you have the foreign minister of India,
Yeah.
which had by then become a declared nuclear state, being described in the New York Times and also in the International Herald Tribune, which would then reproduce and further amplify the crap that appeared in the New York Times.
Yeah.
And that's how we saw the photograph, an Indian official in traditional headgear.
Yeah.
So this kind of insensitivity, this kind of "I couldn't give a damn" attitude essentially stems from a sense of racial superiority. And as I said, this whole thing of the white man's burden. So I now I earlier I would tend to think that maybe there is something missing somewhere. Maybe we are
Yeah.
not communicating right. Maybe we have not been able to sell our story. But no matter how hard you try, India will forever remain the land of fakirs and the great Indian rope trek,
Yeah.
uh, and that's it.
Yeah.
Snake
I,
I guess
charmer.
it's a I
yeah.
guess it's
Ahmed,
a
go ahead.
question of management also. Like I'm old enough to remember the cartoon when it came out in print. Back
Mm,
then, the internet was just like picking up steam, and YouTube wasn't even a thing. This was like 5 6 years before YouTube. And now, even more than 20 years later, Prager University still continues to do the same thing.
yeah.
Like there is that horrible video where they have shown that like the British actually did a favor and they
Yeah.
civilized Indians by like, dude, have you googled Jallianwala massacre,
Yeah.
Jallianwala Bagh
And
massacre?
it's not just that. If you look at, it's very interesting something that I've noticed in the last 2 years, especially since the pandemic started and everybody's forced to stay in their homes. There's an article that came out right at the cusp of the new year in New York Times, which was about the paganization of America. And they were asking, is America becoming more and more of a pagan country? And to be honest, at least anecdotally, I don't have any hard data to back it up, but anecdotally, at least I see that that's true. You look at, there's so many people who share the photos of their homes and how they're surviving in the pandemic, and they have like, basically everyone I've seen has like a little meditation room where they're meditating. They have a little incense stick, they have a photo of Buddha, or they have a photo of Ganesha, and they're all sitting in their homes and meditating. Everybody I almost basically know is doing something, a version of something like that. But at the same time, what's funny, Kanchanji, is in what you were saying, is that I've seen a very strong attempt to also divorce India from this practice. Okay, I'm going to meditate. I have a photo of Buddha in my room. I have a statue of Ganesha in my room, but it has nothing to really do with India. There's nothing to. This is spirituality, man. This is just this is mindfulness, man. It's they use these words like mindfulness, and they try very hard to separate any link of these practices from India, because when you link these practices to India, they feel like somehow these practices get tainted. So I do think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying.
No, you see, this whole thing, there is an attempt. I mean, apart from the fact that there is an aversion to India because it is a civilizational state, it is not a nation state that was created out of thin air like most of the Westphalian states.
Yeah.
Uh, so they are not able to understand, and in their inability to understand and to grasp lies their aversion